I think, what's actually happening is like this GLP-1 market is what it's being called, but it's actually like underselling what's actually happening. And that's not that, hey, this is a GLP phase or surge that we're going through.
But there's a lot of regulation around marketing. The number one thing we're putting first is compliance. The last thing we want to do is start marketing something and flag the website, flag the ad, spend a bunch of money, get yourself in trouble. Hey, what's up, everybody? Cam Hemphill here, your host of the Medical Millionaire Podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. My goal is to give incredible value and insight for practice owners. So if you're looking to grow your practice, elevate your practice, take things to the next level, all these episodes that we put together, guys, they're to help you. They're to help you scale, help you be aware of what's taking place in the market. I have been on a massive path with a tremendous amount of guests lately, and they've been provider owners, they've been private equity individuals, they've been investment bankers, they've been technology founders. And we've also talked a lot about GLP-1s and peptides. And, I'm on this big thesis lately that the world is like going in two parallel directions of GLP-1s, peptides, digital health, the ability to get, prescriptions on demand delivered to your house, and then also AI. And like they also talk together, right? And so I think it's interesting that I'm able to play in both of those worlds and have the opportunity to have experts on the show. So without further ado, I have a wonderful guest on today. I put a social media post out the other day that was like, hey, I'm looking for an expert that is going to give me information on GLP-1s, peptides, what's taking place from an FDA standpoint. There is so much noise out there. And so I couldn't have a better candidate. I got a great reply from my social media, and I want to bring in Dr. Sean Arora, MD. He is the co-founder of Arora Health and Aesthetics. Him and I were just talking offline about everything that's taking place in GLP-1s and peptides, and from a compliance standpoint, and he's an MD and he's licensed in all 50 states. So I'm like, you know what, Sean, let's have you on. Let's talk about everything, and so we can really just consolidate the conversation into one compelling understanding and push that out there. So, Sean, dude, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. This is it's really nice to be on, Cameron. Really excited about this conversation. A must need sort of a conversation, right? So much is going on in the space. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, totally. I appreciate it. And just for the audience, can you just double click on your background a little bit? I know that I kind of, gave some broad strokes, but it goes much deeper than that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been around for about a year and a half, but this really started from me being on the other end of things, overseeing medical spas across the country, but being like a plug-in medical director, working as like an independent contractor for, again, a very high volume. And at the same time, working with telehealth brands, tons of telehealth brands. Again, the goal of seeing many patients, really making a change in the space of longevity and wellness. But as I was saying, you couldn't really do that. I was a button pusher on the telehealth side. I was a sticker on the wall on the medical spa side, and really not making the impact I wanted to. So we got formed with the simple idea, pushed by my wife, and was, she's the smart one, the genius, the other co-founder. The simple step, right? Putting the patient first, and then everything we do for that patient has to lie on a compliant foundation and structure. So, we did just that. It was very simple. It was very obvious. And as soon as we started doing that, we started seeing significant impacts in patient lives, and we could actually see the differences that we're making. And that really excites us. That really allows us to grow the way we are. And then through and through, our whole team, right? Non-clinical and the clinical team members really feel that culture piece is very important to this like evolution of medicine. And I feel like, if an organization truly feels that way, the patients will feel that way, and we're going to start to see that rise in how we treat our health.
I love it, man. I really appreciate it. And, I don't know if there's a hotter topic in medicine today than like obesity treatment, obesity management, peptides. In just a few years, we've gone from like traditional weight loss programs to this GLP-1, GLP-2, 3. I'm even hearing stories about GLP-4s and 5s. I don't know, but like it's becoming this whole mainstream conversation. So like from a physicians to, Wall Streets to dinner tables to the gyms, like I just feel like it's a serious topic. And today I really want to cut through the noise. And so like jumping in is, I, where do you think that the market is really headed from from the next phase of where we are today with all the recent announcements that have taken place?
No, that's really good, Cameron. And I think we're at one of those like really rare inflection points in medicine where the treatment has changed so dramatically that the healthcare infrastructure around it really hasn't caught up yet. Like I always tell all our clients, staff. I mean, we're always talking about it. We're like medicine's evolving so fast, technology's evolving so fast, right? And we have to make sure all these things kind of go side by side, and even compliance and the legal state of the regulatory piece of all of this. So, for decades, obesity specific. So for decades, obesity was always treated as some version of like either eat less, exercise more, go see a nutrition, a dietitian, some sort of like surgeon, right? And then come back in 6 months and we'll reevaluate. And these people are just kind of left off there. You see this rise in dietary companies come up, like supplemental companies come up, but none of that really was pharmacological, right? We weren't really like doing medicine stuff there, right? Lifestyle modifications, yes, is the most important piece to all this, but how does it pair into like real medicine? And I think that's what's happening right now. So now we have those pharmacological tools capable of producing some of those meaningful weight loss reductions, right, at scale. And that's something that we never had before. And that like really excites me, right? So now that's where everyone starts to think about what is obesity and how do we tackle obesity, right? So physicians, health systems, employers, insurers, entrepreneurs, patients, we're all thinking about it. And I think, what's actually happening is like this GLP-1 market is what it's being called, but it's actually like underselling what's actually happening. And that's not that, hey, this is a GLP phase or surge that we're going through. It's actually something much, much bigger. And we're actually in that middle of a new sort of birth of modern medicine, right? So that's why you're hearing all these like version 2, 3, 4.0s of medicine right now. But GLP was just like the starting point, right? It was the first product category that made a lot of this popular. But there's so many things in this space now to really look at that patient in like a true connected care sort of way, where we move away from hey sick care into true preventative care, which is a much much bigger topic. But that's I think where the industry is heading right now. It's so exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's give me some insight there because I think like when I first heard the word GLP-1, it was all this talk around semi-glutide, and now it feels like everybody is migrated to tirzepatide, and then it feels like everybody is now migrating to retatrutide, right? And I've only experimented with tirzepatide and retatrutide, and I get my stuff. I happen to be in the industry. I have great contacts. I get blood work done. I go order from the people that I trust that get their pharmaceuticals from compound pharmacies that I trust, right? Because I want to get the good stuff. So, can you just break that down a little bit? Is if you could, is that because the drug is advancing? Is that because each drug does different things? Because obviously I've heard, and I have tried these, right, and I've had different side effects from all of them, some positive, some negative. But why do you see that like sema to churs to now reta from your standpoint?
Yeah, no, great question. And it is different, like how each medication reacts and behaves and what the actual intention of the medication is. Where a patient could have benefited greatly from semaglutide, it doesn't work for everybody the same way. And that's where, tirzepatide, as we saw that evolution into tirzepatide, which is a dual agonist, which is a GLP plus a GIP, which is different than semaglutide, where that's just a single agonist, a GLP-1 receptor only, and then retatrutide is like a triple agonist, right? So that's where like the GLP-1, GLP-2, GLP-3 comes in play, but it's not truly that. Like that's not the right way to call it, even though a lot of people do, right? It's more of just like on the street way of calling it. But these medications are continuing to evolve as we do have more studies coming out, and there are more things that we can target within the body, very similar to these receptors. So I think that's where this evolution is being. So after retatrutide, even again, which is undergoing right now a patent review as a biologic, and it's a whole thing in itself. And legal, if we get into more of the legal side of things, it should not be compounded right now. It doesn't like I think we've heard a lot of the stuff with like compounding. Sorry, the peptide market and everything that's been going on right in the last few weeks here. But with retatrutide, that's not even considered like a class two right now. It's not even officially released from the big pharma yet. So that is a great medication. I think the results right now have been just absolutely amazing, and I think we're going to see that more and more as these type of drugs do advance. But again, I'd be very cautious because you mentioned you're taking retatrutide, and hey, I did too, right? Initially, when I didn't know enough about this world, and I'm like, hey, the compounding pharmacy is great, right? You can get whatever that comes from there is safe for me. It's coming from a pharmacy, right? I mean, then you get to really learn, like, oh no, that's not the case. But it is, I like that your approach is, let's talk to the pharmacy directly before I actually get these medications. And that also, I guess will tie into a little bit later about like what we do and wherever you get this source from. It's very important that they're vetting these pharmacies so you get the best product.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think like, just to drill into that, I think that's what kind of, prompted this conversation was there is so okay, you can compound trizepatide today. That is well known, that's established. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. There's a certain,
So
if the 503A, 503B part, I
yeah,
guess is where, yeah.
because it's considered a category two pharmaceutical drug that can be compounded outside of mainstream pharmacies. Correct? Am I saying that right?
It kind of, sort of. So, tirzepatide can be compounded, but
Okay.
it's like how it can be compounded, right? It's not like everybody can compound this medication at its like base form that looks like the identical name brand version, right? Like the Munjaro. So it can't be compounded in the exact same way. There has to be some sort of medical necessity. So it comes to the patient from the compounding pharmacy. What does that medical necessity mean? It has some sort of additive in it, which actually benefits the patient. So, for example, like the B12, the glycine that you've actually seen being compounded with the medication. So there needs to be like, okay, the patient has tried a name brand before. It wasn't suited for them. They could have had some side effects with it. It did work really well with B12. It really did help with some of those side effects. So that's where, letter of medical necessity would go along the prescription, and it would have to come out of a patient specific 503A type of pharmacy, not like a bulk supply. So you couldn't go to a clinic today and just receive an injection out of like a multi-use tirzepatide vial because that piece is not allowed for compounding. The multi-use bulk supply 503B product.
Because it's patented, right? The Manjaro. So that's a patented formula, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it is, and then yeah, we just have to be careful. Like these pharmacies, also, they don't really care. Sometimes, not all of them, right? Some of them they just don't care. Where they're like, hey, we're just going to produce this in bulk supply. We're going to send this to the clinic. The clinic's going to get their bulk supply of tirzepatide. They think they're doing everything right. They're not getting this from like an overseas supplier or off the street. They're getting it from a pharmacy. But then the regulatory body, the board of pharmacy, can come in, they can see this multi-use vial and they shouldn't be selling that, right? Because you legally cannot have multi-use vials or bulk supply of the tirzepatide at your pharmacy. So at that point, yeah, then they'll get in trouble. But I mean, the pharmacy is like still sending them, right? So you got to be very careful. There's so many layers to it, and you have to do like triple checks, and it's just like a whole world in itself.
There's so much demand, right? There's so much patient demand. It's
Yeah,
almost like they're out there just going to grab whatever they can get. That brings me to the retatrutide, right? Because my research shows that Eli Lilly holds the patent for retatrutide. Is that right? That's what my
yeah,
understanding. Okay,
yeah. So
so if they own the patent, I mean, and by the way, I do know some 503A pharmacies out there that you can get retatrutide from. I won't name any of them, right? But I know you can. So the fact that Eli Lilly owns that patent, are they doing things? I mean, I would be upset about that. I guess if I was Eli Lilly, like you should be buying it for me.
yeah, right now you can't. Retatrutide hasn't even been really released yet, so that's like the
Okay,
main thing. It hasn't officially allowed for any patient to get it. Right, there are some special use cases where some patients are actually allowed to get retatrutide, and I think just recently one was right. It was like there was a news article. I even posted something about it on LinkedIn, and everyone's like, hey, who could this really special, powerful man be that received it, right? So I think we all have some thoughts of who it could have been, but it's everybody wants the medication, right? The demand, like you said, the demand is really there, but it's the retatrutide right now just can't be. It's not released anywhere yet. Like it's officially not been out yet. It's still completing its trials. So it's not like tirzepatide that has gone through completion, right? This has not even gone through completion yet. But you're right. There are I think we know the same exact pharmacies that are compounding today, and that's it's scary. Not so much for I think I don't know. Again, it's like it's one of those things where I did feel comfortable with it, knowing that it's coming from a compounding pharmacy that we've actually vetted before, and I'm like, okay, this is a good pharmacy. They're making it. It must be legit, right? But then you do have to take it to next levels. We would do our own internal audits of our pharmacies that we work with, ask for COAs of random batches, conduct like some random audits, right? Now, do we have to do this? No. But it's something that where if this is something I would want my dad to take, right? I would want to take like I would want to do that triple check just to make sure that the pharmacy is doing what they're supposed to be doing. And what I learned in doing that specifically for retatrutide is that I don't know what product this is. I don't know if this is really retatrutide, right? Coming out the way that everything else kind of comes in when you ask for a report with like sema and ters and some of the other peptides out there. With reta, it's a little like I just don't feel comfortable with it as I did before. So it's one of those things I'd be advise everybody. One, don't buy from like an online company. Don't do that, right? If you don't see a doctor when receiving these therapies or a nurse practitioner, a PA, a provider, right, before receiving any of these therapies, just don't get it, right? You have kids going on today getting Retta online, really quick and easy, and it's being like marketed on TikTok, like very easy. Like it's so simple to get. It blows my mind. And I mean, it's scary, man. You got to be very careful where this stuff comes from.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you a story too. Like, so it was 2 years ago. I went to a very well respected conference in aesthetics and wellness. Met a guy, learned all about research labs and his price points. I mean, he can get all the peptides, GLPs, right? And this is before retatrutide really, like, I think it was even around. Was all amazing, right? Like, and it drop ship right to the house. And I thought it was great. I finally had access to like all the cool things, and I was going to turn 21 again, and the magic pill and the shot, and I'm just going to be like Hulk and not have to work out as hard, whatever. But it I started really like diving deep into really YouTube's contacting all of very well respected physicians that I know, and the word 503A, 503B compound pharmacy kept coming up. So I started connecting with other individuals in the space that only provide 503A. They're vetted, it's FDA approved, they're verified, they're also state regulated. Obviously, if I'm going to put something in my body, I want to make sure that it's going through some sort of regulation, and I'm not
Exactly.
taking some sort of research drug that they give to mouse, and it's at least gone through some sort of regulation and compliance. So, but now, so I'm like, okay, 503A. All right, I'm only going to get things from a 503A, and I should be good, right? And it should be from pharmacies that I trust, and other physicians order from these pharmacies, so I trust those. And I start taking tirzepatide, and I saw some great benefits from it. I was microdosing it at first, and then I upped my dose a little bit. By the way, I'm getting blood work, lab work continuously, so I'm looking at my baseline, my markers. I actively work out, right? So I'm just looking to get like the next level of benefit from my physical activity. And then I kept hearing about retatrutide. And I won't make this whole conversation around retatrutide. I promise we'll move on in a second. But it was like, well, tirzepatide, from my understanding, burns fat and it burns lots of muscle. So you have to like make sure you're taking a tremendous amount of protein, right? And for me, that's not a problem. I monitor that. I want to take as much protein as I can. But then I hear Retta doesn't burn the fat, or sorry, it doesn't burn the muscle. It focuses on the fat. It's like, oh, great. Okay, cool. Well, now I just want to focus on that, and I'm going to get the more benefits. So I'm able to get it from a pharmacy that has a good reputation, right? It's just, I think like what I'm getting at is it's almost like the marketing is ahead of the reality of the situation, right? And and that's, I think that's my question to you is, how do these practice owners like truly know where to go because if they're like, oh, it's from a 503A, check the box almost, right? They've almost like checked the box. But some of these 503As, are you saying, or maybe they shouldn't, like Reddit, right? They shouldn't be sending that out because they're really not allowed to.
Yeah, no, 100% true. And I think we've definitely taken that responsibility in a way, like obviously separating the legal part of it, but we've taken that responsibility in a way where we like to vet our partners, the ones that we're working with, when it comes to vendors, when it comes to pharmacies. So that's one thing, to rely on your medical director, the program that you work with from a clinical standpoint to at least do that vetting and what that could mean. The other part of it is to actually speak with your healthcare attorney, right? Look into these pharmacies, and see if there's, if are they doing things by the book, and what are the things that you should be doing in order to vet these pharmacies. So and there's tons of things, right? We have our own like attestation form, but then there's like another step to it where it's like a verification, right? That you actually have to do. Now, do we have to do these things? Not necessarily like all of it, but we do take that extra measure because it is very important. And you're seeing this, man, and everyone's seeing this, is that these pharmacies, if and I tell these pharmacies directly, I some good friends are in the space already, some really good pharmacists, and I tell them, I'm like, usually if something does fall flat, like a scary event for a patient or something, it's not really on the medical side, it's not on the client side, it's usually on the pharmacy side, right? Something wrong happened in that journey of the product itself, either on purpose, intent by the pharmacy, or somewhere in the delivery, right? Which again could have just been no one's fault. But it is very scary. It does need extra vetting, and I tell these clients to be very cautious with not any pharmacy that comes knocking on their door that's offering a good deal.
Yeah, yeah. You don't take it as face value. Actually, do some
Yeah,
diligence. Yeah, okay. But which is, I guess, concerning because you're like, it's a pharmacy, right? They should be doing things that are correct.
I know. I
This,
know.
yeah. So this takes me to the next point. Is like, there's all this talk on the FDA changes recently in the news headlines. RFK, I've seen him like testify in front of Congress lately. We hear the word Category 2. Um, what is like current state of affairs, right? Like present. Do you have a good grasp on? Can you break that down on really where things are at right now from a GLP peptide standpoint? What is Category 2? What is going on?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's interesting because I feel like I'm at an interesting spot, like our organization is, where we're speaking with regulatory people, we're speaking with the pharmacies, we're speaking with clients, patients. Like we're seeing like hearing different things always come through, and I feel this is funny, and I'm sure you've also kind of gone through this, but you feel like a lot of people are like, hey, I know someone up there in the government, and this is what I heard, right? Like I
Yes,
feel like I hear that all the time. I
everybody.
was like, does everyone know the same guy, or like what's going on, right? And it's usually the same thing. Like, hey, it's positive stuff to come with peptides. They're really pushing for, which is really good news. Like, I'm a strong believer that these peptides do work, right? And it's not. It's obviously gotten recently popular. There was a little phase, several years back, but they've been around for a very long time, and they've made positive impact for a very long time. There's a lot of human use cases and anecdotal data. There's just not enough clinical trials that have been performed on this stuff, right? And that's like a whole other thing with big pharma not wanting to conduct this, if that's a theory, right? Because of
Right.
they can't patent this, right? So it's
Sure.
it's there's so many different reasons why, but there's a lot of human use cases, human data, right? And currently, we do oversee peptides today, right? But there needs to be the right type of oversight for it, right? And if the right type of oversight exists, the right type of data is being collected from this oversight, so then we can then use AI modeling as it is today to predict outcomes in the future. And then we can really, evolve with medicine from a technology standpoint. And so if we're doing this with the right way, I think we're it's going to be perfect, right? But I think that's where we're heading. I don't think it's going to be, especially after what just came out of at the Hill like recently. I think we have only good things to hope for here. I don't know when that's going to happen. There's no like law change or rule change as of what the outcome was, but it only shows that hey, I think there's a positive change here that's going to come here soon.
Okay. Okay. Well, that I appreciate you double clicking on that. So, and to build on that, right? From a compliance, let's let's shift to marketing for a second. I'm a practice owner and I have a legacy aesthetics business, and I call it legacy because that's what I've been doing for the past 5 years. Let's just call it. And look, you know what? I think that I have maximized my ability to grow on the aesthetic side of my business, and I'm going to launch a wellness program, and I'm going to go get the right person to run that part of the clinic for me. I'm going to build the right compensation model for her. I'm going to hire the right coach to help implement a good plan. And by the way, I need to roll out marketing, because if people don't know that you have the ability, to get these super powered pharmaceutical drugs, then you're wasting your time, right? This is a cash pay type of organization and business, right, with inside of aesthetics and wellness. So I have to market that, right? But there's a lot of regulation around marketing. Um, and recently I was going through an exercise with a practice that I work with, and we're going through the shift of actually launching a wellness program. And the number one thing we're putting first is compliance, because the last thing we want to do is start marketing something and flag the website, flag the ad, spend a bunch of money, get yourself in trouble. Ad campaigns shut down, Facebook jail, all the things. And that's kind of my background. And I'm like, look, the appropriate path is to really be legit script certified, and go through that whole compliance, which costs money. It's a whole thing. It's time consuming. And then when you're building out like your website, I see websites out there today that show, hey, we offer peptide therapy, and it says BBC 157, TB 500, like all of these lists of peptides on these people's websites.
Hmm.
And I'm over here thinking like, that is, you're not ranking, because I've run some SEO tests on some of them. And I'm like, how are you just throwing this out there?
Yeah.
Because you're going to get shut down, and they're not legit script. They may not even know what it means to be legit script certified, right? So
Yeah.
like, how should a clinic go about this to say, hey, I want to market, I want a piece of this. The patients want it. Like everybody wants it. I bet I live in a community of like 1,400 homes, and it's a nice income, affluent neighborhood. If I was to do a survey, I would bet 70% of the neighborhood has tried a GLP or peptide, maybe more. So they want it, right? So like, but how does a practice owner go about launching it and being compliant and market correctly versus, so they don't get themselves in trouble?
Yeah, and I think, as we mentioned, like medicine evolving, tech evolving, compliance they all kind of have to go side by side. That's one thing where marketing, right, I don't think has caught up. Like you can't, like the easy answer is you just can't do it with peptides, right? Because of legit script, right? Legit script has not changed anything yet. And it's weird that it has such a strong hold on the industry. Like you need legit
It does.
script, which blows my mind. Like it's like being in this space and learning about it. I'm just like, why? And I don't want to get too in depth here and call out legit script and have them calling me. I feel like they have so much power, but
Right.
it's like it doesn't make sense for me where legit script is the body that governs the decision making here from a marketing perspective, right? Like if a clinic hires a medical team and the medical team strongly feels in the difference that it's making with these products, right? Which is peptides, from a marketing, like you can market it then. I mean, there shouldn't be like legit scripts like, oh no, we don't approve it, so we can't allow this, right? Because legit script is just as old fashioned as a lot of medical boards and regulatory bodies out there. They're like, hey, we're not going to approve non FDA approved products on our page, and that's the only guidelines that they follow. So the answer is no, you can't even market these products. So for clinics that are bringing in wellness programs, unfortunately they can't market it on their website. They would have to market it, it's word of mouth, right? They can offer these products medically, they just can't because of the TikTok meta ads. Like you just can't do it without it. It's very unfortunate. And there are some organizations that are so big in the digital health side that they have active funnels coming in from marketing where they don't even have legit script, right? They're like, we don't care for legit script. We want to put this on our front page website. And they have active funnels coming in, right? They follow more of the traditional like MLM type of systems, right? In the healthcare space. So those companies don't have a legit script. and they're still actively seeing patients. So that's nice to have, but that's not a luxury everybody has in marketing, right? So it's unfortunate, and I really hope that does change. Again, another word of mouth from someone that knows someone in the government. There's been like news of like another certification coming out soon, and again, I think with a lot of the traction, it makes a lot of sense. And I do believe it's true. It's a new certification specifically for like peptides, right? And I hope, and I know we were trying to do this as well, but from like an education standpoint, I hope these certifications like make sense, right? Like the certification, the badge that you're getting here is not something that you're just paying for, right? And then an initial vet, like what's happening with LegitScript, but it's a certification that shows that this company is truly certified in offering something medically right here. So there's like some kind of vetting that they've gone through from a medical standpoint, a sourcing standpoint. So we know it's a safe location to be at to order these peptides. So I hope if there's a certification like that that does come out for marketing, it does, factor in those pieces.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I think it's the market, it's warranted for sure. I think that if it just bottlenecked by legit script, I mean, I see, yeah, that's a little bit of a concern, a little bit of a monopoly there. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, look, but I think like also the compliance part is really important,
yeah,
because you can
for sure.
have, let's just take a practice across town that is getting stuff from a research lab, throwing stuff on TikTok, Instagram. They don't really know what they're doing. They just want to slice of the pie and a little bit of the cash that's coming in from the demand. Like that's a problem. And so, having these compliance, and regulations out there is important, right? And I think like if I'm a provider, I mean, I got to put safety first, I guess, compliance
Yeah,
first,
yeah,
um, yeah. So it's but it is interesting of what I've seen out there in the market, and even organic social, right? The content I'm seeing organic social, it's interesting.
yeah. It's crazy, man. Like if you're referring to like some of these big GLP brands, like some of the AI content that's coming out right now, like it's the weirdest stuff. Like I'm like, how are these like appropriate ads even to put out? Like the whole marketing world, and I'm gonna have to pick your brain about it later. Is it just blows my mind in this space. It's wild.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting, and I know there's some of the peptides that that was what was interesting to me is I'd go to some sites and it's just like a full like menu list of every peptide out there in GLP, and I'm like, I don't know how you have this on your site, and Google's gonna flag you and take you down. But if you have that that shield, that legit script shield, or whatever it is, the compliance, like then you're all good. And you do have to pay a fee, and you do have to go through the compliance of going through it. You have to upload all sorts of documents and stuff. I've been through it, right? And that does unlock a tremendous amount of benefit from a marketing standpoint. I think today in today's framework, they're basically saying, hey, look, if you are legit script certified, we look at you as compliant, and I'm Facebook, and I see that that's on your file. Cool, we'll let the ad run. And I think people that are investing from that standpoint will probably capture some of that patient demand by default.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, just keep going forward here. As you, continue to look under the microscope, what are some of the biggest misconceptions, right? Like there's so much, a tremendous amount of, misinformation. What misconceptions do patients have, about GLP-1s in today's market?
yeah, that's a really good one. So with how we operate, specifically in the digital health world, there's such a high volume, as I mentioned before, of patients there in the digital health world because most of these clients are operating nationwide. So what we like to do is we really like to collect that data and learn the differences that what are these patients going through for these type of medications, right? And what we've learned is that GLPs don't work for everyone. We know this, we knew this, right? And we knew this was going to happen, but patients don't know this, right? They think they're going to take it, they're going to lose a lot of weight, and it's supposed to work. And if it doesn't work, it's not their body not, responding to the medication. It's basically the client's fault. They're selling a fake product, or the compounding pharmacy is the knockoff, right, of the medication. I think that's what we're seeing is like the biggest misconception right now. So what ends up happening there is like they'll blame the client, they'll see who the provider was, they'll file a board complaint and be like, hey, this doctor's prescribing me fake drugs, right? Online. And it just doesn't look good. It's like a huge burden for the client. It's an issue for the provider. And no one's doing anything wrong. It's just that that patient didn't respond well. But right now, everything we hear in the news and the outlets, it's just, hey, these medications, you're going to lose weight 100% of the time, right? So I think letting everyone know these are just like any other medications, right? So you could have the results, you could not have the results, right? Everybody responds differently. I think that's very important. Like SEMA and TERS, like we discussed initially, SEMA may work for some, tirzepatide may work for the others, right? Tirzepatide have better results and they usually work from a bigger set of population, but it's not the same, right? And everyone could react a little bit differently. Some may have really significant side effects. So that's where it kind of leads into the world of like precision dosing and what does that mean, right? For patients, like even following the normal titration schedules that big pharma has released, like Lilly and Novo, like these are the normal schedules. But in our world and the way that we operate with our clinical infrastructure, we like to find that right dose for a patient, right? We like to find what really works for them. So hopefully when a patient comes to us and they say it doesn't work with the provider that you've established a relationship now to find that right dose for them.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I think like I'm glad you brought that up because it's almost like from a patient standpoint, they talk a lot about units. Oh, I take 20 units or 10 units or 25 units. But from a dosing standpoint, depending on the mg and the ml, like you have to know how much you have to do the math, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And that's a problem. So how I mean, yeah, I mean, because they're self-injecting, like they get it at home,
Yeah.
and so
Biggest
how,
error right now. Yeah.
yeah. So how do you drill down on the dosing? I mean, that's a big one out there that I think like patients really have no idea how to
Yeah.
measure.
No idea. They have no idea. And that's where the biggest issues lie because that's what results in all these ER visits is patients injecting the 50 units they got from this person, the same 50 units, but it's a different concentration with each vial. So they just took like 10 times the normal dose. And that's scary. So when we prescribe, and this is something actually recently we did a review on with our internal providers, is that on the intake form, a patient can say, I'm on the highest, I'm on 15 milligrams per mil, right? Because on their vial, it says 15 milligrams per mil, but then it'll separately say they inject X amount of units, which is actually going to be a lower milligram. And this is just a concentration reading. But why would a patient even know that, right? They just see the bold letters on the pharmacy vial and they think that's their dose. And then they select on the intake the highest dose, and then a provider prescribes it. And this happens across the country. And this is why also our providers have been trained to ask for the actual prescription that they're using. Make sure, and if this is not on the intake already, we like to make sure our intakes already are requesting this, but send a prescription picture. And then of this picture, let us know how many units you're injecting, right? So now we really know what they're taking because the biggest error is like patient error inject way like overdosing on the medication. And then we really don't know what they're supposed to be taking. And then that results in us prescribing the wrong drug, and then something serious really could happen. So, being very cautious with telehealth at scale, making sure, even in the brick and mortar world, making sure that hey, we're really understanding these patients. We're not just out here to be like I alluded to earlier, a sticker on the wall or a button pusher. We want to really
Hmm.
stay away from that. So, these things are very important.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big one. What about what is the difference between 503A and 503B?
Yeah, no, good question. So this is where we were discussing earlier as well with the bulk supply being provided to a clinic. So like GLPs right now cannot come directly from a 503B pharmaceutical supplier that produces a bulk supply of these medications in a multi-use form for clinics. So both other 503B products that can be used, like for example, when you go to a clinic and you're getting like an NAD injection, those can be bulk supply, right? Those or IV vitamin shots like B12, glutathione, vitamins. So those can come from a bulk supply 503B pharmacy. 503A is patient specific. So that is like a patient's name written on the vial that's being dispensed from the pharmacy. So very similar to like your local pharmacy when ordering a med there. where a medication is sent to the local pharmacy and is being dispensed to the patient. The 503A patient specific does the same thing. These all now specifically for the GLPs need to come with the letter of medical necessity that both the pharmacy and the provider are on the same page of, right? So this patient is getting the GLP medication because either the dosing is different than what they could get with the brand name, or it has the additive that the compounding pharmacy was creating, or some other reason that we're using to justify it coming out of a 503A pharmacy.
Okay. Okay. Very helpful. I mean, again, I hear these tossed around all the time,
Oh yeah.
and I appreciate you drilling into that because I think for the most part, I think that just the terms and the words are being thrown out versus really understanding the definition. So I think that's super helpful there.
Yeah.
So in terms of like, where if I'm a clinic practice owner, um, what is your thesis going forward in terms of I guess responsible implementation, compliance? If I'm a practice owner, I want to be around for years, right? I'm not looking to be around to just tomorrow and jump on the next gimmick or trend. How should I be thinking about my go to market strategy from a long term standpoint in this world?
Yeah, no, it's good. It's one, like you said, focusing on the future, not this like short term sort of everyone's talking about this right now. We need to jump on it right now and optimize our sales, and we'll use that money to build for the future. That's not the way to do it. You have to focus on the regulatory landscape, and like this is like a big piece of what we did when we started our business is we were thinking about the same thing, right? It's like, what is the regulatory landscape going to look like once this, like, what's all this stuff that's happening with medicine right now? There's going to be a lot of changes in the physical world and then also in the digital health world. And we need to make sure that we're set up for that success, right? So being very cautious with a lot of oversight, a lot of protocols, SOPs, policies, making sure everybody's educated and trained internally on everything that we do, a lot of vetting, a lot of verification. Those kind of things are very important. So for a clinic, just opening up, it's going to be important to make sure you have the right type of like clinical infrastructure in place before they open up, right? Having a pharmacy where you can get the product from and then hiring a random doctor to just be a sticker on the wall to operate will not be successful. Those organizations will go away, and we've already seen that happen. They've been shut down, right? You need an infrastructure, an actual engine, a system that is doing both for you, like the clinical and the compliance piece, like 24/7. It can never stop because these laws and rules are changing all the time. So you're going to have something that's continuing to feed your clinic, your organization, this sort of information. We do like that oversight program, but we also do the audits, the initial audit. We want to make sure that these clients are operating in the right way because there's so many holes in compliance. Like, and again, as an organization that's growing so fast, we also, it's not like we're perfect right now. We're far from it, right? We're continuing to strive to that point, but it's so hard to do because every day you're going to find a new hole of compliance. The best lawyers in the world, the best compliance programs in the world couldn't even identify all the compliance stuff out there in this world specifically. Being in all 50 states, they're so special, and regulatory bodies, when you go on their website, are so gray. You don't even know what they're saying. Like, I can go on the board website today to see if I can do a certain thing. I have no idea if I can or not. Like, they do that on purpose, right? It's like if they want to get you in trouble, then at least they have the flexibility to do so, which doesn't make sense. They're not protecting us. They're not protecting the patients in that whole realm. I don't know what their intent is actually. Like, our goal is eventually to go to the regulatory bodies and be like, hey, we're the gold standard. But it's very hard because I feel like that's going to be a very tough battle to do. And the way I wanted to do it, and I've been talking to some really strong people in the space already, is that we have to do it collaboratively, right? Even if we're competitors with each other, the organization itself, and this includes our clients, our ICP, like our clients coming together, medical directorship programs, compliance programs, companies that do clearances, law firms, right? Marketing companies, those that are in this space, pharmaceutical companies come together, then create something collaboratively that we can go to the boards with, right? Like, hey, this is how we feel collectively is probably the best way to do this thing. And, then we get that, stamp of approval. we're heading down that path. We're trying to get all those pieces in play right now, but it's not easy. And I thought I was going to be able to do this in my first year as a business because that was my priority. There's no way. I mean, I was wrong. And there's just no way because one, getting everybody together feel that way, like, hey, compliance is important, is very difficult to do because everybody wants to make a lot of money, and compliance kind of hamstrings you in that piece, at least for the short term, right? So, but if you're thinking long term, it's going to make you the strongest company out.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. Well, Sean, it's been a absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining. Taking all the questions for the audience. If they want to connect with you, where is a good place for them to go? Is it social? Is it your website?
Yeah, LinkedIn, they can always find Aurora Health and Aesthetics or me. And then our website as well. Just contact us at aurora-health.com. And it's been awesome, man. Like Cameron, I think we got to definitely connect offline as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. All right, guys, there you have it. Go connect with Sean. He obviously knows, the ins and outs of compliance, the pharmacies, classification, what's taking place, and current state of affairs, and what his, what his thesis is on going forward with the go-to-market strategy and really building a foundation around compliance. So again, thank you so much for joining. You guys go follow him, go check out his website, and do me a favor, guys. We're now publishing everything on YouTube. So if you'd rather watch the show, if you find that more interactive, more entertaining, go to the YouTube channel. It's just Cameron Hemphill, search it, or the Medical Millionaire Podcast. And do me a favor, subscribe to the show. That's going to help us just create more content, get more guests, and really just keep putting out state of the art interviews to really just help grow the organization, the show, and giving back to the community. So I'll leave it at that. Sean, thank you so much. Until next time, happy injecting.
So, yeah.